Welcome to the LFG Pats Pod with your hosts, Joe and Mike. Let's go!
All right, welcome into the LFG Pats Pod with Joe and Mike.
Hey, how you doing?
So we're here on a very special episode. It's Tuesday. It's a few days after the draft. We kind of let things percolate a little bit to try to do our research and try to, kind of fill in any gaps of misunderstandings of players that maybe we needed to dive into a little more. So we gave it a little more time, but we promise it will not disappoint. So Mike and we're going to get into kind of the overall draft grade. We'll start out with that right out of the gate. But then we're going to obviously go into each of the picks, and we're going to kind of grade those. One, how we like the fit, but two, kind of, how do these players fit against the big boards?
Need versus value.
Need versus value, exactly.
That's what we're looking for.
So we're going to do that, and then we're going to even get into some notable UDFAs, some undrafted free agents that we signed. Mike and I are really high on two of the guys, potentially three.
Efton Chisholm, baby. Let's go.
That's right. So we're going to get into that. We're going to start out with just some, key dates that are coming up that we wanted to share with you guys. So, Mike, I don't know if you want to jump into that briefly.
Well, yeah. They started phase 2, the Patriots, of their offseason program this week. So that's for veterans. But now that they have the rookie class drafted, normally those developmental programs begin in the middle of May. Rookie football development program on May 12th. Then they have the rookie premiere and some orientation. But yeah, that's the biggest thing we're going to be looking at moving forward. In between the draft and training camp is a little bit of a lull. So we're just going to try to stay up to date on a week-to-week basis on what stage the Patriots are in their off-season process. So this is normally the slow season in between the draft and training camp. We tend to fill that void. That's what we're endeavoring to do on a weekly basis, to just get everybody their coverage, everything that they need. And we're going to go deep dive into some arcane, some of the history in the past, and we're going to talk about specific topics. But we're going to be here every week, and we encourage you guys to tune in.
Yeah, and so with today's draft, I think Mike and I are roughly on the same page. And, we're both in the same range of A, B type draft, right? And I think it's a mix of, what we're used to, but then also the reality of kind of who we landed based on who we needed and the great value that I think we got in a lot of these picks. Now, it's not perfect. No draft is perfect. And honestly, up until, 3, 4, 5 years out, you really don't know what you got, right? But on paper, Mike and I are very enthused. We are, glass half full guys as it is. But then, coming into this, Mike, we were really talking about, is this, a team that can win 7 or 8 games? Is this a team that can, get over the hump, can win the division? Are any of these things a possibility? Well, now that we're through the draft, we feel pretty good. I mean, I feel great, actually.
We feel fantastic about it, and we're going to go ahead and draft the grade. We're going to draft each. Right, we're going to grade the draft and grade every pick by pick, but I'm going to reserve my overall grade for the whole draft towards the end.
Yes. Just
because I don't want to bury the lead. I don't want to make a spoiler alert, but I'd like to talk about the first pick, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Will Campbell, obviously a polarizing figure for the obvious reasons. You've heard about him. You've heard about his length measurement issues with the arms and the shoulders and the wingspan, and I understand people have to get that out of the way in their scouting reports just so they are covering all their bases, or they are a know-it-all and have a negative opinion, because people always want to have a negative opinion. But when I've been studying this guy, and I've done a pretty deep dive on him, I was aware of him when he was a sophomore at LSU, which when he became a captain, by the way, as a sophomore, and also as a junior. He was a left tackle there for 3 years. They gave him the number 7 patch, which they don't give to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. It's for the main playmaker on your team. So you don't just get that handed to you. You have to earn that. What this kid is the hardest worker you're ever going to find. He's a blue-collar kid. He grew up on a farm. He's up at 4 a.m. feeding the chickens and the hogs and all that stuff. So his father, who also played college football, I believe, with Texas A&M, his father instilled an incredible work ethic within this guy. So the character alone is very high, but I don't even consider the character when I do my evaluation of him, because when you talk about his actual work as a left tackle, the man is an absolute technician. His technique is flawless. Now he's 6'6", 319. That's huge.
Yep.
I don't care who you are.
It's a bookend.
If you have less than quarter-inch arms below the threshold, you're still 6 and 319. You can still move some people around. He's got elite athleticism, as I know that you know, and
Yep.
I'm going to let you do some of his numbers and whatnot. But his RAS was 9.91. That's absolutely elite for a tackle. He's so fluid on his feet. He has a great anchor, a wide set, a wide base, and like I said, a great kick-out steps, and his recognition skills are second to none. He can recognize right at the snap what that guy across from him is going to do, and he can react accordingly. Now, sometimes does the arm length thing come into play here? Yes, it does, because if you have a longer guy, sometimes if he guesses wrong, then that guy can get his hand into Will Campbell's chest. And that's like the cardinal rule of what you don't want to do as an offensive lineman. But for the most part, and I've talked to you about this before, I go with the Dante Scarnecchia rule. And that it doesn't matter so much about the actual arm span. It has more to do with your quickness from getting up from your stance and getting into the center of the player's chest, because once you get into the chest, it's all over. So this kid's hand placement is impeccable, and his hand quickness is impeccable. So he can beat a guy on the first move. And if he doesn't, sometimes he gets overpowered or somebody grabs him first. He has all the technique to slide around in the pocket and make sure that he knows where that guy's going. He tends to anticipate moves, which is what every left tackle does. I know everybody wants to kick him inside the guard. It's the easiest thing to say, oh, you know, the arm, so just kick him. No, I don't want him at guard. I want him at left tackle.
Yeah, and previous players like Matt Light, Logan Mankins.
Exactly.
And there was another one not coming to mind right now.
Well, Isaiah Wynn is not a great example.
But no, I'm saying that there was other guys that have come to his defense even and said,
oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
you know, all these measurables, it's all draft hype. It's all, you know, talking points. The guy can play. I mean, it's a known fact between, you know, ex-players, ex-Patriots and him. And honestly, we talked about this before. 5 months ago, he was the consensus left tackle, and it was, is he going to go top higher than 4?
Exactly, yeah.
And so, you know, we're at a position where, you know, like, you know, a lot of the analysis says, yeah, he could have went 5th, 6th, 7th, who knows, right, where he could have went. But at the end of the day, you know, I have to believe that the Patriots tried to maybe move down or try to find a better option. Or
we're both proponents of that,
right?
Yeah.
And what it comes down to is it takes 2 to tango.
Yep.
And you know, if you're you know, for me it was like, all right, if this is me executing a trade, I'm calling the Raiders and being like, hey, throw in something, anything, for us to get an extra pick, because we know we're going to get Will Campbell probably at 6.
We could have.
And this way we walk away with something. You guys get your guy in G&T, but clearly the Raiders were confident. And they said, no, we're good. We're going to sit here and take G&T. And if that doesn't work, then we'll take somebody else. You know, if they were satisfied with their spot. So as much as I'd like to get something free for nothing, that just doesn't always work that way. And I'm delighted with Will Campbell. You know, I think, like you said, a lot of people let a lot of the drama leading up to the draft get in their ears. But when you watch this guy,
silly season,
right?
You know?
And you watch the tape on this guy, and he consistently wins. Yes, he gets beat like everyone can get beat. But to your point, he's a worker. He's a workhorse. He's going to put himself on the line. He said he's going to die, fight and die for Drake May. I mean, you gotta
love that.
You gotta love it. I mean, it's just it's extra credit, right? It's extra work that he put in post-draft that wins a few more people over. But, you know, I don't think we needed that. I think for me, you know, my thing, like I said, was the value. But what are we talking here?
I feel like the need meant that's the value in this particular instance.
All right. Well, we just talked about Will Campbell. Let's move on to the next pick, Mike. Trevion Henderson.
A guy you love.
A guy I love. And you know what? I didn't expect this to happen. I expected us to have to trade up or do something wild to get him. I think everyone had the Patriots tagged at Jaden Higgins, which we both loved. Obviously, the Texans snagged them, I think, at 37 right before us, which I think this just fell right into their lap, and they were like, you know what? We got Will Campbell. We're gonna have a better offensive line. Let's grab one of the best running backs in the whole entire draft, and not to mention one of the best running backs, but what about one of the best pass blocking running backs as well?
It was elite.
And so, his stats speak for themselves. 0 fumbles and 667 touches. Can we think of anybody on the roster that has a fumbling problem? I mean,
yeah, one.
From Andre Stevenson's biggest problem, right? 4,614 rushing yards over his career at Ohio State with an average of 6.9 yards per carry. Only running back to eclipse 1,000 rushing yards, 7 yards per carry, and 250-plus receiving yards in 2024. The guy's just, he's not quite a workhorse, right? He shared the field with Judkins. But this guy is an electric play waiting to happen. I mean, you give him the ball, and he's got the measurements, he's got the RAS score, he's got everything to completely deliver that knockout punch. And so, to me, this just fell into our lap, and it worked out that way that we said, you know what? Yeah, receiver is our biggest need right now outside of our line, but this guy's too good. We can't pass him up. I mean, it's the athleticism is, you don't even have to talk about it. It's 4.4 340, 38.5-inch vertical, 95 percentile explosion score among running backs. I mean, this guy is a highlight reel. You go look at his tape. I mean, the guy's great at pass blocking, like I said, great at finding lanes outside. He's not a bruiser by any means. He's not an Amarion Hampton, but he's more electric than Amarion Hampton. And so he's, Gene T obviously this year was the number one consensus back, but then it's kind of a toss-up. What do you want? Do you want a guy who's going to be a workhorse, Joe Mixon-esque guy like Amarion Hampton, or do you want Jahmyr Gibbs? Do you want the guy that's going to hit home runs and just explode when you need him to?
Yeah, he's a fantastic value right there. His overall game is off the charts. He's a player that can do it all. He's one of the best pass blocking backs in the league. He's one of the best route runners in college football, and he can run between the tackles. Now, he's not a bruiser. He's not going to do that all the time. So I don't think he's an everyday back, but he's a workhorse that could do it all, and he fits. He's like the perfect fit for the Josh McDaniels offense.
Yeah.
And we've seen several instances of that, the Kevin Falks of the world, the Shane Vereen's, the James Whites. I think that he fills that role. You can split him out wide if you need to, which McDaniels loves to do. He's a great route runner. And again, like I said, he's a great pass protector. So as far as the grades go, I didn't give my grade for Will Campbell, and I'm giving him a B+ just based on the lack of measurements there.
Yep.
With this guy, I'm giving him a B+ also because I love the player, but because this was such a deep running back draft, I thought maybe they could get somebody later on and plug in another need here that we needed more. But after the totality of the draft was complete, and I'll talk about this, once the aggregate settled, the balance came out positively. So I think he's actually a great value. He was ranked somewhere as high as 18 with some outlets there. So I think it's a great value. And they said, and I know you mentioned there was like some internal discussion about, oh, well, we wanted a player, but that player got picked, so now we have to take him. That's, I don't know if there's any of that's actually how.
Who knows, right?
I mean?
Yeah, it's all speak. It's all.
Well, it's what Elliot Wolf said, and what Elliot Wolf said doesn't always
Right.
I don't take that as gospel at all. But the guy I think that they were talking about,
Higgins.
Well, Higgins, but
The guard, right? The guard. That's right.
Jordan,
yes.
That guy, the Hawaiian guy.
Miami took. Yep.
Yeah, so they jumped us to get him, thinking that we wanted him. But guess what? This is the best case scenario. I'm so much happier with a Travion Henderson than I would have been with a guard, even a dominating guard. He played tackle in college, so they're moving inside right away. But we have guards. They might not be on his level, but our needs are so many that we can't just stock up on interior linemen that early.
And talk about questioning already, Will Campbell, is he a tackle, is he not? And then you take a guard, right?
Yeah.
So that would put, the crosshairs on their back very early, which who cares about that, right? But I think we would have had a little more pause there if we said, really, who is this guy? A guard? And, Trevion Henderson's a household name, right? Everyone knows who he is. You know what you're getting. Like you said, he's...
The film speaks for itself.
Yeah. And he's in my mind, he's Kevin Falk, James White on steroids.
Yeah.
And these are Patriots legends, right? James White, Super Bowl MVP.
Single-handedly won us
the game,
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I can't help but give it probably closer to an A, maybe an A- if you want to go that route. But to your point, that it was a deep draft. It was, but to another point, I was thinking this guy was going to get taken. I thought Sean Payton fell in love.
I thought he was the first rounder. I really did.
I thought for sure, the Broncos would have taken him. I was even thinking the Chiefs. I'm like, 32, they're going to get, a compliment to Isaiah Pacheco. They ended up going Josh Simmons, which was a great pick because, he's got a ton of value there too.
Oh, yeah, that's your guy.
Potentially the best left tackle, who knows? But, all said and done, I think the first two picks went astounding, I think, for what we need, like you said.
They were pretty good. And as is going to be a theme throughout this draft evaluation, they went for a need that matched value. We did need that all-purpose running back. And he did fall just a little bit. So we ended up on top on that one, which is why I give it the solid B+.
And some of the comparisons you'll see out of him is Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, right?
Yep.
If you can get a Breece Hall or Jahmyr Gibbs on your team, I mean, they're saying Breece Hall's available. I would love to bring him in. We got
is that right?
Yeah, they're saying Breece Hall's on the trade block.
Oh, gee whiz.
So if we could have Breece Hall with Trevion Henderson, I mean, I'm game.
Yeah, but you're low on Stevenson.
That's true. That's true.
You're trying to get him on here.
That's fair.
Nobody's going to take his contract on.
No.
So I don't know if the Breece Hall would be realistic.
It's probably not. It's more of my wish.
But the point is,
thinking.
Like meeting the value up against the need. Consensus Big Board had him as 40, so we took him 2 spots.
At worst, we took him at value.
I told you I had him up as high as 18 at one point, so I think it's a tremendous value, especially because we covered some of the issues that I thought we should have covered here. We covered them in other places, which we will talk about. But yeah, Trevion Henderson, great pick in the second round.
All right, Mike, you are a big fan of this next guy, and so am I. But tell me about Kyle Williams.
Kyle Williams is a little bit of an enigma. He didn't have the most linear path. He started out as a quarterback, a gadget kind of bounce around guy. We know somebody like that in the name of Julian Edelman. Yeah. I'm not saying it's Julian Edelman because he's a different type of player, but the point is, it's funny the way people end up finding their niche. Like, this guy didn't really break out until this past year where he had a monster season, but this is a guy that we had. First of all, I had him mocked in the 4th round. That was wishful thinking because I don't think he would have, based on how the board fell, I don't think he would have been available in the 4th round.
No way.
Thought he would have been gone. But this guy, if we didn't get Jaden Higgins, this guy is a fantastic consolation prize. Now, you can line him up all over the formation. You can ask him to run any route, and you can ask him to block any assignment. Joe pointed out to me, I've seen a lot of his film about separation, but Joe pointed out he's a pretty decent blocker as well.
Yeah.
So what I like about this guy is, first of all, he's a dog. He won't go down. His ball skills are second to none. What was it, 8.4 yards? Yak?
8.4 yak, yep, per reception, yep.
That's ridiculous. And, they scheme him open a little bit on bubble screens and things like that. But what he does with the ball in his hands is electric. So he can play any position in the offense as far as receiver, but I truly think that this guy can start as the X right away. And I know the measurables aren't there. He's 5'10". They list him at 190. I have...
Is he really? Is he 175, 180?
Yeah, the measurements, they get fudged based on different sources that you look at. Is he 190? I don't know. But he's still a stoutly built receiver. But at 5'10" and being an X there, that's an outlier. But when you see the way that this guy works off of the press on the line of scrimmage, the way he nuances his routes and sets up, he just tricks defensive backs.
He sets people up.
And Joe, I know you made an analogy about, well, you said a quote about how he takes his craft as an art, and I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because it is an art. It is an art. All the different nuances that come into it, he's in tune to all of that, and he can beat you at all three levels. He's not afraid to go over the middle. He's not afraid to get in the backfield and try to make something happen, and he will also blow the top off of you if you let him.
Steve Smith had a great piece on him.
Oh, yeah, the comp. We got to do the comp.
Yes.
The comp. We have a lot of comps for this guy.
A lot of comps.
So my comp here, and Joe reminded me what my comp was because I was comping him to like a poor man's Stephon Diggs, which is accurate. But who's the other guy I comped to? Tyler Lockett.
Tyler Lockett. I think it's the perfect comp. It really is.
It's pretty spot on. But you had one as well, right, Steve?
Steve Smith. I mean, that was an easy one to
and Steve
draw.
Smith said that.
And Steve Smith said it. Yeah. So I mean, Steve Smith broke down his tape. He said, look, he's definitely got a few things he can work on towards, kind of what Mike was saying. He started out at quarterback. He's only got a few years playing receiver, really.
He needs to work on his ball skills as far as, like, catching with hands.
Exactly.
He lets it come into his body too much. They need to coach that
Yeah,
out
Steve
of him.
Smith, showed a few plays where if he didn't let it get to his chest, he could have taken a more direct route to the sideline or to a gap. Instead, by, catching it with your chest, now you have to, misdirect. And so a few things, minor things, but like Mike says, he lines up all over the field.
He does.
His first step is devastating. If you watch him against defenders, if they're trying to jam him, he's great at knocking their hands down. Great at that first initial quick step, the hezzy steps.
His footwork and handwork right at the X on the line of scrimmage is second to none. But like I pointed out to you previously, if you put him at flanker at the Z position, where he's a yard off the line of scrimmage,
it's a cheat code.
He's unguardable.
He's a cheat code
because he can just run around that guy or juke him out. The guy doesn't have the right to get into his face right away. You get that buffer. So he's a fantastic flanker. He's a fantastic X. He's a great slot guy. We get a zillion slot guys, so I would prefer that he stay on the outside.
Play a border position.
So I think he can do that.
And his stats just jump out off the page. I mean, 70 receptions for almost 1,200 yards, 14
touchdowns.
17 yards per catch, right? We've sorely needed that.
And that's mostly intermediate routes.
Exactly. Right. And
so that's the yak. That's what the yak
right.
in.
And another great thing about him is he's got a 58.3% success rate on throws over 20 yards.
That's insane.
That's wild. And with a guy like Drake May, we've seen some of the dimes he's dropped on Booty, on Austin Hooper, on Hunter Henry, some of these guys that really don't belong catching these balls,
for real.
Right? And so you have a guy now that he's built for this, right? This guy led all receivers in the 2025 draft class with 8.4 yards after the catch. It's
unheard of.
It's unheard of. Against man coverage, some interesting stats here. He racked up 505 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns and 25.3 yards per receptions on 33 targets with 0 drops. So when you man him up, one, he's catching the ball, he's coming down with it, and he's going to score a touchdown.
He's a man beater.
Yes. So, I mean, what are the things that we've missed, right? We got these guys who can get open in zone. We got these guys we can scheme open. But when it comes to an alpha, this guy is it. I'm sorry. I mean, he runs a 4.40, but at the Senior Bowl, he was clocked as the fastest receiver on the field at 21.36 miles per hour.
Yep.
There's certain things that are measurable. There's certain things that are not measurable.
Yeah, and there's an issue with his route running. People talk about his route running. I say, watch the film and look at the top of his route stem and see what he does at the stem. If he gets 5 yards down or 10 yards downfield, I promise you that he's going to trick you. You're going to go in a different direction than what he is intending, and that's why he has separation skills that are off the charts, and that's why I think he can make a good X.
100%.
Because he can juke and duke people, he can fool people, he can set them up, he can set you up on a fly route and do a comeback like it's nobody's business. The only thing I wish with his comebacks is that he caught it here.
Yes.
In his
Which is very coachable.
Yeah,
very
it
coachable.
is.
Get him on the jugs machine.
Yeah.
Get him on. Get him confident.
Just
and
catch it here instead of nestling it into the
can't be a
bread
body
basket.
catcher in the NFL. These guys are throwing it too hard.
Exactly.
The ball's gonna go flying in the air.
Yeah.
He actually had a funny joke in his interview. So he said, "I like separation. It's like COVID. Get away from me, 6 feet." So he jokes about it like he's got 6 feet of separation from COVID.
He's got it.
He's got the separation. I mean,
he smokes people at the route stem, the top of the stem. He smokes them every single time.
Another great comp that I didn't think about, and this is it's interesting, is Tank Dell. Tank Dell year one.
I like him better than Tank Dell.
I like him better than Tank Dell too, but a smaller guy.
Yeah.
Right. That is a tactician at getting open. I've seen Tank Dell smoke guys. It's short, mid, and deep, and he just has big playability. So I like the comp there too.
I think it's fantastic.
All right, so I think we're in both agreement that Kyle Williams was a great pick. I'm gonna go A on this one. I really feel strongly about this. The value, the player. What was the differential? Did we look at that on this pick?
Yes.
It was decent, right?
Well,
It was a little early, maybe.
The consensus was 82. He was picked at 69. It's a difference of 13. I think that's completely marginal. I don't think that matters at all. They targeted a guy. Now, if he was minus 33, I'd say something about it.
Right.
But no, this is a wash right here. So I think the value met the need on that one.
Yeah.
And even if people have a problem with it, they're going to more than make up for it after the fact.
In the next few picks.
Which is what we'll do moving forward.
Awesome.
So if you don't mind, I'll do the...
jump into it.
I'll do the next one. I'll do Jared Wilson out of Georgia. He's the center. He was the first-year starter last year. He was a consensus big board at 73. We picked him at 95, so that's a difference of about 33 picks. And with this guy...
This is where we traded down twice, right?
We traded down twice. We traded down with the Panthers and picked up an extra fifth rounder. Then we traded down again the Chiefs. The Chiefs. Yep. So we picked up an extra fifth rounder and a fourth rounder into next year. So you got that capital. Plus, you got a guy that probably should have gone in the third round, personally. Right. He is the consensus number one, a pure center on the big board. And he had a real breakout season last year. He's got all kinds of measurables, and the potential's through the roof. Now, do I think he's a starter this year? No. I think he's more developmental. He needs to get a little bit more strength, and he needs to refine his run blocking technique. The only knock I have on him is that he tends to get bull rushed off the A gap right off the bat as soon as he snaps the ball. But guess what? Garrett Bradbury has problems with that too, and he's a starting center right now. Hopefully they can coach that out of both of them. But this kid is an elite athlete. He's a heady, cerebral player. If you look at his film, his hand placement is second to none. He is. If you want to pull the guy. Pull him out for a sweep or a counter move or something like that, he's going to beat you to the spot before the guard does. That's how fast this guy is.
He's a high RAS guy for sure.
Well, yeah, so about the numbers, like he's elite in RAS.
So his relative athletic score, if you guys don't know what RAS is, was out of 10, 9.98.
That's insane.
Literally 99th percentile for his height and weight. Runs a 4.8440. 4.8440. I mean, I can tell you, I actually ran a laser timed 40 at the Atlantic Combine against right alongside Jamie Silva. I ran a 4.5 and I was 6'1", 205 at the time. This guy, he ran a 4.84. It's unheard of. 32-inch vertical leap, 9 foot 4-inch broad jump, 11-inch hands, which, this guy is just a phenom when it comes to his measurables.
He really is. And I think I told you my brother-in-law was banging on the drum for this guy in the third round. He's like, we need this guy. And I was like, no, we need Jack Sawyer. And we never ended up getting Jack Sawyer.
Right.
He went to the Steelers.
We may have gotten somebody better, though.
We ended up doing okay in that category.
Right.
But Jared Wilson is a future starter. I see him as a linchpin on the offense for many years to come. There's some knocks on him, that he's raw, and that he can only play center, but I don't believe that.
I don't either.
Because he does work in at guard, and they're going, well, based on what Elliot Wolf said, and I don't believe him, but maybe if Josh McDaniels tells me, I'll believe it. But they're going to try to work him in a guard, too. So I give this pick a solid A right down the middle for the value that meets the need. We need a developmental center. We had Jake Matthews, who they thought was going to be what's next, but he was hurt for the past 2 years, and they just cut him right after the draft.
Jake Andrews.
Jake Andrews. That's right. Yeah, David Andrews, and then there was a Jake Andrews understudy.
A mixture of things, yeah.
So they cut him, so this guy's what's next. So solid A for me. I love the pick.
And it's, from a guy who comes into a team that has problems with, Drake May got knocked around last year quite a bit. Obviously, he's pretty elusive. But this guy had 475 pass blocking snaps. And, Mike, guess how many sacks that he let up?
0 or 1.
It's 0. Okay. Yeah.
I'm cheating. He told
I may have told him that earlier.
He told me that before. I still couldn't remember.
So it's 0 sacks, 1 hit, and only 6 pressures. So to Mike's point, yes, his run blocking is, definitely above average to good, and his pass blocking is elite. And to me, that is exactly what we needed.
You wouldn't have thought it, but it was a sneaky need.
84.9 pass blocking grade. Let's see what else I got on him. He played over 800 snaps at center, started all 12 games, second team All-SEC, football IQ and versatility, noted for his elite processing skills, excels at identifying and handling complex defensive looks.
He's very cerebral.
Nicknamed Big Country, high school wrestling star. I mean, all the best linemen are wrestlers, right? Barbecue connoisseur. I read this about him. I'm like, oh, cool, okay. That's probably most people in the South, but...
Well, he better not challenge you, because you'll out-eat him.
Oh, I might. I definitely might. And another cool thing about him is he plays acoustic guitar. So he actually, he's sang for the team. Apparently his go-to song is Sweet Home Alabama.
Nice.
So if I get to hear that on Hard Knocks or something in the future, I'm pumped. Like, I want to hear it.
And if he wants lessons, I'll show him a thing or two on the acoustic, too.
You're definitely a strings guy for sure.
Indeed.
So, yeah, I think we're both in agreement here. It's
I got an A all the way.
It's solid A. I mean, the guys, we stole him late, and he's exactly what we needed.
Indeed. So, yeah, we'll move on to the fourth round, pick 106. We took safety Craig Woodson out of Cal. So now this is a polarizing pick for me. Because when you look at it, he was big boarded at 197, and we took him at 106. That's a difference of 91 picks. That's almost 3 rounds. So people were basically projecting him to be like a late round guy, 6'7", or undrafted free agent. But, so I wasn't high on it, because the tape I've seen on him is normally a box safety moving downhill. But then it was pointed out to me by Joe. Joe was like, you need to look at more film. He's not just a box guy. He can do it all. So I looked at more film, and he was right. They moved this guy all over the secondary. He plays free. He plays strong. He plays box linebacker. He plays nickel. They line him up outside sometimes, for crying out loud. So this kid has an incredibly versatile skill set. And Joe, I know you said that the communication in that Cal secondary is second to none, and he's a big part of that.
Yep, 2-year captain. I mean, they call him the professor because he's known for breaking down film. He's mentors the young kids. And going into the draft, this is one of the things I heard from Vrabel and a few others, that our secondary really lacked communication. It lacked a clear leader. Obviously,
well, that's a microcosm of everything that happened.
Right. But I think this is Sans kind of Devin McCourty, right? This is that leadership in that backfield where it's like, that guy that gets to call the shots and say, no, you got him, I got this, you got, it's that extra communication that I think this guy brings. He's a 2-year captain. One of the really good nuggets that I saw about him that actually I didn't even mention to you, Mike. He is one of the, 85. He got an 85-plus grade in both coverage and run defense from PFF. This is a rare feat for a safety.
No, it's high.
In the last 5 years, this is elite. This is like a handful. I think it was 7 people have an 85 grade in both coverage and run defense as a safety. So this guy has proven that he can do both. In 2023, he played almost nearly identical numbers. I'm trying to find the stats now as far as, like you said, playing out deep and playing
You had
in the box.
You had the numbers, and they were pretty respectable percentages, I think.
2023, he played a lot more all over the field. 2024, they kind of played him a little more in the box,
Yeah.
but he still played, I think it was like 30 or 40%, deep. And so, this guy's 2024, he recorded 70 tackles, 2.5 for a loss, and 13 starts.
I'm warming to it. I've warmed to it tremendously.
It's one of those things where clearly there was a lot more going into this pick because, what was the differential on this guy, right?
Exactly. It was high. It was like 90 something, but as, I will point out as we move forward, it's going to end up being a wash based on the value that we got in the later rounds.
Right.
So we will talk about all of that. But as far as this particular player, Cal, they have the tendency, they've been cranking out some defensive backs lately. And they all have the same traits that you said, multiple versatility and communication skills. I mean, just guys from Cal in the secondary in the league right now. You get Elijah Hicks for the Bears, my namesake, by the way. He didn't go that high, but you got different guys. You got Scott Daniel, Cam Bynum. Those two guys play for the Colts, and he's been comped to Cam Bynum quite a bit, and Cam Bynum has turned into a good piece for them. Yep. And also, by the way, we have Jalen Hawkins, who's an alumni of Cal, and he plays the same exact position that I want Craig Woodson to play. So hopefully... I hope they both make the team, but even if not in training camp, I thought Jalen Hawkins was a serviceable player. He's not a star or anything, but we didn't have any strong safeties. We got Duggar and Peppers. None of them are safeties. We'll talk about that in depth plenty of times. But Jalen Hawkins was the only true deep safety. So if he can teach that kid or help him how to do that on an exclusive level, you need a communicator there. We haven't had one since Devin McCourty. So maybe this kid can step into that role and get like a prominent role right away. That would be very nice.
He's also not too good for special teams, which that Mike Vrabel is, like you said, we've talked about this in previous episodes. Mike Vrabel was a complete, not gym rat, but he was a rat on the field where he's just like, yeah, throw me in anywhere,
Well, he started out as a special teams.
Right. And so this guy's got 450 career special team snaps. He even called it out. He said, I'm not the type of player who's like, I'm too good for special teams. So this guy's, no matter what, this guy's probably going to get some immediate value with the draft capital, with, them selecting him where they did, and with the ability to have two other safeties, in Jabril Peppers and Kyle Duggar. So, I see him jumping in right away and automatically providing some special teams.
At least rotational. He can be a rotational safety back there, and he's going to have to play some special teams.
Yeah, 100%.
Just bottom line. Sometimes the stars in college don't have to do that, but you're a small fish in a big pond now, so you might have to check out special team. But he's a fantastic athlete, so yeah. I don't have any problem.
His RAS was above average, not quite elite, but 8.83 out of 10, 4.4, I want to say 40. But again, this is where, if his RAS creeps up into the lower nines, does he go 60 picks before, right? This is the difference between these how they nitpick these athletes.
Exactly.
And so it comes down to fit, but what are you looking for? A guy that's a leader, a communicator. These are intangibles that are tough for us to measure as fans, right? And these coaches have connections into these systems where they really get that firsthand knowledge of, who is this guy? Is he going to be a guy that's going to stick around, that's going to be a leader, that's going to be, most of the guys we're talking about in this draft are high character guys.
Vrabel guys. They're picking Vrabel guys.
Yeah, 100%.
High character, very physical, just hand in the dirt, 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of players that he wants.
Yeah,
that's what he wants for his whole entire team, is for them to be tougher than the other dude. He doesn't really suffer divas all that well. So that's why I have like Kylie Williams, he could be a diva, but it's going to get coached out of him. Stephon Diggs wouldn't have come here if he knew he couldn't do his diva attitude.
Right.
Because him and Vrabel spent a lot of time together. They went out to dinner, they had workouts and this and that. Vrabel's not going to not tell him exactly what he expects out of him. So he's going to say, all right, I need you to cut out the BS and blah, blah, blah. And I feel like Stephon Diggs is like, no, that's past me. I think I'm good to go. So, yeah, it's a team-building thing. But Vrabel also says, well, you can't just win a football game with just a bunch of good guys.
Yeah.
You have to have a marriage between good guys and actual talent.
Yeah.
So that's what they're targeting. This Craig Woodson fella, he obviously fits their mold, and they wanted to go grab him before somebody else did. So I understand that. And it's also a good representation of how they use their board, because I don't think this is a great value. But the way they used the board with Jared Wilson before and a couple of these picks after, I think kind of solidifies how the Patriots were in complete control of their draft this whole entire way. And that segues me right into the next pick.
Well, before we get into that, I just want to bring up that Craig Woodson is an avid piano player.
You're doing it. Joe's doing a deep dive, guys.
It's all the little intangible stuff.
Humanitarian affair.
He's known for singing Stevie Wonder's "Isn't She Lovely."
Wow,
that really makes me happy. He's also an avid comic book collector.
We got the karaoke machine. You can come by anytime.
He said he relates to Peter Parker, so he's a big Spider-Man fan.
Wow,
underdog mentality. All right, and what are you gonna grades here? What do you think? I'm thinking probably a C.
I gave Craig Woodson a C.
Yeah, that's right, because it could pan out differently.
It's just because of the value and the necessary need. I don't know if he can fit the free safety role. Yet to be seen.
Yep.
And furthermore, I don't know if that's what they envision him to do either.
Right.
So I'm not sure. Like, I think I floated to you maybe like if they could teach Kyle Duggar to play single high, then that would be a good way to open these guys up going downstream. But Kyle Duggar had a terrible season last year. I know he was banged up, but he can't cover tight ends.
Yeah.
I don't want him covering tight ends anymore.
Right.
So maybe a flip-flop on that might be in order.
Yep.
But you never know how it's going to pan out based on when training camp and the competition starts.
Exactly.
So you don't know, but this kid's a versatile enough weapon where I think he's going to stick around and definitely have a rotational role, at least to start.
All right, let's get into the next guy here, Mike.
So,
Joshua Farmer.
So this, Josh Farmer, DT out of Florida State. We had 6'3", 310. I have my stuff pulled up, but I just want to see.
6'3", 305.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was on ball.
310, 305. This is like a difference of lunch. What do they eat for lunch?
Indeed. I was just trying to make sure I still have my P's and Q's about me. You know what I mean?
Did they go to the bathroom yet? This is pretty much what it comes down to.
Well, if he likes barbecue the way the other guy did, then he could probably lose a lot of weight. I'm completely digressing from all of that stuff. This kid was an absolute steal in the fourth round, pick 137. His consensus was 89. That's a difference of 48 picks. And they traded up a little bit to get him, which shows that other people wanted him as well, especially when he was falling. I would have had no problem taking this guy in the third round. This guy, he's a long, powerful interior rusher. He's a D lineman. He usually plays like 3 technique, which should shade the outside guard, like in between the guard and the tackle. That's usually where he does his work. He has an impressive arsenal of pass rush skills for a defensive tackle. He's got a great rip swim move. He's got a package where he just bulls people. I've seen him just bull rush people into the center. And if the bull rush doesn't work, do a push-pull rip over just right past the defender, and it's pretty impressive. So his pass rush skills are great. He's not great against the run. You can't set an anchor or anything like that. But in a year from now, he will be able to do that. Get him in the gym a little bit. He doesn't need to add too much weight or anything, but just get him settled on his technique with the run game. And you're looking at a future starter. And for right now, you're looking at an immediate rotational player. He will play immediately in situations. I mean, I know we got Christian Barmore, Milton Williams on the inside, and those guys are both interior rushers. But like I was telling you, we need a stable. You need
absolutely.
You need a rotation.
You can never have enough.
You need a rotation of DTs and a rotation of DEs. I think this guy is a perfect rotational piece starting right away, and I give the pick an A+ for need and value, and because of the player that he is. Very high on the player.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things, too. I think, I forget who said it when we were watching the draft, but it was one of the draft analysts was saying he's the best push-pull technique D tackle in the whole
Is that
draft.
right? Yeah.
So a lot of guys recognize the same things that you did. Relative athletic score, RAS score 7.9. So above average, right? Not elite, but he's not a slouch by any means. Started all 25 games he played, 65 tackles, 15 tackles for a loss, 9 sacks. This was over 2 years, obviously. He led Florida State with 4 sacks in 2024, lower number, but 8 tackles for a loss. This guy, he doesn't really have any glaring huge weaknesses. I mean, yes, his run defense can get better, but he's also tackling guys behind the line.
He gets upfield. That's exactly what they want.
Exactly. A few good things also that I read about him: leadership and accolades. So he was named a team captain 8 times in 2024, so more than half the season. And he also got the Bobby Bowden Leadership Award as well, which led to a 2-time All ACC selection.
Another theme: leaders.
Yep. There isn't one almost in the top 5. I don't think there's any guys that aren't leaders or don't show leadership traits. And so, this guy was just a huge draft value. They call him the Hulk, by the way, which I think is very
He's
fitting.
got very long and very big arms.
Yeah. He got some family ties in football as well, so he's got some heritage. Jordan Travis was a star quarterback at Florida State, now with the Jets. Obviously, he's not, doing anything great over there, but he's got the lineage. He's also an academic star as well, all ACC academic team. He's a seafood connoisseur, which I found out, which I'm like, okay, interesting.
Nice.
Apparently, he's a shrimp expert, so we got Bubba Gump in the as a D tackle.
We'll see about all that.
But he runs a 5'11" 40. So anything when you have a 300-pound guy, it's anywhere near 5 seconds. I mean, the rule of thumb is like, wow.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Like, it's amazing. 10 and 1/4 inch hands, 83 and 3/8 of an inch wingspan, which is elite for a defensive tackle, by the way. We talk about wingspan a lot, apparently, nowadays.
Yeah.
A 29-inch vertical and a 9'4" broad jump. So the guy's a specimen, and, his body of work on tape is just violent, getting after it from the middle. So, I'd say he's got shades of Milton Williams, but he's more of a Barmore. He's definitely more of a Barmore. Milton Williams is more of your speed, get after the quarterback. He ran a 4.6 40. This guy,
which is also completely
unheard of. But this guy, I think, with some coaching, could be an all-pro, right? And maybe not this year, maybe not next year. But this guy is a screaming value at the pick that we took him.
They took a lot of guys that I plan on them being starters for the foreseeable future once everybody gets the...
For sure.
All these guys here that we've talked about so far have future starter written all over them.
Yep.
And you have to love that, especially going into the 4th round, still talking about starters. And going into the 5th round, you talk about a guy, you want to talk about value. We picked Braylon Swinson, the edge player, defensive end from LSU. And again, measurements vary. I've seen a lot of different things. I'm going with 6'4", 255.
Yeah. That's about right.
I think that's his measurement right there. And this guy, he fell for a myriad of different reasons, which I'm not really sure still about it. But he was consensus at 68 and ended up getting that one picked at 146. That's a difference of 78 picks. That's like 2.5 rounds.
Yeah, it's wild.
I would have been fine, and this is why I'm okay with them taking the safety a little high, because I would have been fine them drafting him in the 3rd round.
Exactly.
So if you switch the order around and took those 2 linemen
we would have been just as happy,
and then put the safety afterwards, it's a wash to me. It's the same exact thing.
Right.
So they completely redeemed themselves in my eyes with these particular players. These guys, and another thing I love about it is that some guys just stick to their board. Nope, this is the guy. This is the guy. We have him targeted right here. We're going to take him. They didn't do that.
No.
They saw that these guys were sliding. Braden Swinson should never have lasted to the 5th round. So they saw these guys like, we got to pull the trigger on this.
100%.
We got to get the value on this. And I'm hearing things like Braden Swinson, he wasn't a great interview. He thinks he's a know-it-all. He's got a little bit of an ass. I don't care
what does that even mean? Know-it-all.
What does that mean to... Yeah, what exactly, first of all. And second of all, Vrabel's going to kick that right out of him. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, this guy is going to respect Mike Vrabel. I promise you that.
And he's, like you said before, he was going up against Will Campbell constantly.
Yeah, they practiced against each other for what, 3 years? No,
so,
1 year. 1 year. Because he went somewhere else. The year before that, he was at some other school. I think they only spent 1 year together. But he said they used to have battles like every single day. And he was like, oh, Will Campbell, you guys are getting a dog. Forget it. But as far as this guy, as far as immediate impact, he is a situational pass rusher from day one. Now, he needs refinement on the early work, the early downs. He can't really set a good edge. He's not too stout at the point of attack. But what he does bring you is speed, agility, and bendability off the line. And that can confuse people. He's got a nice ghost move, I like to call it, where he feints one way and tricks the guy, and then just goes the other way, like a head fake or something, like a basketball crossover. He does stuff like that, and then he gets right after the quarterback. He's got a very good pursuit desire. He wants to finish a play.
He's a finisher for sure.
Yeah, if he's 10 yards across from the play, he'll still try to get in there and finish the play. This kid should have gone much, much higher, but he also fills a big sneaky need for us, and the value is absolutely off the charts. A+ for this guy right here.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mike. I mean, his tape is the biggest thing that I see that stands out, that you just watch the tape and you're like, wait, how did we get this guy this late? And
Seriously.
You look at his stats, and 58 tackles, 13 and a half of them for a loss, 8.5 sacks across 13 games with 12 starts. The guy's he gets after it. He's got a 30% win rate on true pass sets, second best in his draft class, surpassing notable prospects like Abdul Carter and James Pierce. So, his pass rush rate, pressure rate is 19%. And so, I mean, this guy is, when he's in, he's getting after the quarterback, or he's tackling someone behind the line. And to your point, he does need to work on setting an edge, because that could lead to big plays the other way, right? If you're constantly getting north and south, and the lateral ability to kind of stand somebody up and kind of make a move and lock people in, that can hurt you.
Yeah, let's not get it all twisted around about this defense. It's a 4-3 one gapping scheme. So to me, it's a boom or bust scheme. They're gonna train their guys to get in the gap and shoot the gap, as opposed to the Bill Belichick two-gapping system, where one guy would just grab onto two dudes and just stand still.
Right.
And just hold the gap so the guy had to go somewhere else. Vrabel's more the bend don't break philosophy.
Yes, right.
This guy is not doing that. He's bringing his guys right away, and the reason he's doing that is because he's going to have a stout defensive line. He has speedy linebackers now.
Right.
He's got your Spillanes of the world, your Christian Ellis's of the world, who I like. The other kid they got from Tennessee, what's his name? I don't know. He's I don't know.
Spillane, Landry.
He's Jack Gibbons. Jack Gibbons is a kid that nobody knows about, but he's going to get a lot of run here. And we still have Jelani Tafai, who doesn't fit what they're doing. So he's like 6'2", 260. So he doesn't fit that whole mold of what they're going for. But my whole point is, if those guys get beat, then we have the quickness in intermediate on the second level to chase that guy down or make the tackle. And also on passing downs, if they can't get to the quarterback immediately, we still have two of the best premier cover corners in the league.
Right.
So they're going to buy that defensive line some time, because they're going to stick to their guys like glue. So I think that this defense could be very incredibly disruptive, and guys like that are going to end up earning prominent roles for that very reason. Farmer, the one-gapper guy, getting in there, and then Swinson getting off the edge. I think those are going to be future starters and immediate contributors.
Yeah, he's got the RAS score. He's got 8.93 out of 10 RAS, 89th percentile, which is elite. His nickname is Swinsane, which is perfect, right? This guy's, you watch this tape and he's just wild. He's insane. One of the other things too that I thought was really cool and interesting was, guess who his favorite player was? An ex-Patriot legend.
I'm cheating. He already told me this. I'm cheating because I didn't know. It's Willie McGinnis.
Willie McGinnis. Yes.
Full disclosure, I'm cheating
That's
on that
fine.
one.
That's fine.
But that was a great comp, though.
It's
I mean,
perfect, right?
It's a perfect person to look up to. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you want to model your game after that guy, please, by all means.
And he's also a big film junkie, too. So Swinson is known for his obsessive film study, often breaking down opponent tendencies to predict plays. He credits his habit for his ability to spy mobile quarterbacks like Ole Miss Jackson Dart, whom he sacked in 2024.
No wonder why people call him a know-it-all.
Yeah, so he's definitely, this guy's very vocal. Hey, I don't care if he's good and he watches film and he knows what's going to happen and he's telling people.
I got no problems.
I hope we get to a point where people get sick of that. I guess I don't know. That's the thing. But yeah, I agree. A+. I was in my basement watching the draft at this point, and I was screaming. I'm like, oh my god, thank God! And my kids were like, what's going on, Dad? You okay? I'm like, yeah.
So
okay.
they could have taken him in the safety slot and taken the safety into this slot.
Exactly.
So to me, it's a complete wash.
It's a wash, right? It's a win.
They totally made up this draft, and I've told you, Joe, these two picks, Josh Farmer and Braden Swinson, are what solidifies this as a home run draft.
Yes.
Getting players like that at that value that late, that's the type of thing that elite front offices do.
We're not used to seeing it.
That's the type of thing that a Howie
it.
Roseman front office does, you know? We're so used to having to apologize for our drafts like it's our friggin' fault or something.
Yeah, and we have to cope, right? It's the coping mechanism of, well, and then this is me last year with Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. It's, well, if I look at the advanced metrics, actually they were really good, and you look at, and you talk yourself into these guys, and it's like, actually, we probably were just wrong, and it sucks to go to think about sometimes, but it just seems like, and even Elliot Wolf said it, right? He said the process was different, right? We just had a better process. And, part of me thinks it's that, but also, Vrabel and his guys clearly had a process that worked, and they came in and they brought that, right?
Elliot's just the puppet right now.
Yeah.
He's just going to do what they say. Last year, he ran the show because Mayo didn't know anything or anybody.
Right.
So he was like, yeah, just get us the best players that you see fit.
This was your show. So this process that you had last year that you weren't used to, that was your process.
And he really screwed it up because he drafted Fanini and he did a bad job of that. Now, these new guys come in with a totally different philosophy, and I think this Ryan Cowden guy is going to take Elliot Wolf's job sooner rather than later. I've told you that usually that's when they let executives go after the draft, after they've done all the work. I don't know that, but it wouldn't shock me in any way whatsoever,
right,
because this is the new direction that they're going in with this new front office. John Stretcher, who is Mike's right-hand man, he's his personal assistant, but he also has all these connections around the league. He's so plugged in, it's not even funny. And Mayo didn't have a guy like that.
And now is Elliot Wolf expendable? Is he redundant?
He is. He's completely 100% redundant. Do I think he's a nice guy? Fine. Do I think he's a great executive? No, I really don't. So I would be fine with that. They have a plan in place. If they keep him, it's not going to matter. I don't care whether they keep him or not.
It really doesn't matter.
No,
we've proven that we can do it with him.
It doesn't matter. They're taking the guys they want to take, and that's the end of the story.
And they said they had healthy conversation, and I think that might be a good thing, right? Where you're in these positions where not everyone agrees, but you got all the angles in there, and who knows, did Vrabel always win those arguments, or did maybe he get swayed? Maybe at one point Elliot Wolf proved, hey, this is the guy, trust me, here's why, give him the facts.
It would be very interesting to see who wanted who at that particular.
Yes, and who did we end up with?
Because we got Henderson, who's an Ohio State guy. You would assume Vrabel would want that guy. However, because of that trade-up, the Dolphins, the guard, in the back of my mind, I think you really wanted the guard. I really do.
Yeah.
And then he got jumped for it, and it became a moot point. So he was like, okay, this is definitely a consolation. But I know the guy likes to build from the inside out. So we were talking about Jaden Higgins possibly being it, which it possibly could be. He went 34.
Yep.
But I think this Jordan, the Hawaiian guard, I'm sorry, I don't know his last name.
Samoan, Hawaiian, whatever it is.
Yeah, but I think that he's the guy that Vrabel wanted, and I'm glad that it didn't fall through, because I'm very happy with Travion Henderson. I got no problem with him.
Sometimes these are the happy mistakes that happen, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. So now we get into the latter half of the draft where we're not going to have a heck of a lot to say.
We're gonna go a little quicker with these guys, but we'll definitely glean some
So
insight.
with the next pick in the 6th round, number 182, they took Andres Baragales. He's the kicker from Miami. And the rankings don't matter at this point, because when you're taking a kicker in the 6th round, then it means that you just don't feel like bidding for his services in free agency once the draft is over. So they just figured, all right, we'll lock the guy up, and he's the consensus number 1 kicker, first of all. And second of all, if you get a skill guy or any guy, basically anybody other than a special teamer at that spot, there's absolutely no guarantee that guy's going to make the team. This kid is, I'm putting him at 90% making the team.
Right. Based on the competition, based on what kickers are out there and free agency, right?
And they have, people have a lot of really good things to say about him. They say he's very clutch. He kicks in warm weather, but he said it's not going to be a huge problem for him. He's modeled his game after Adam Vinatieri, so we all know what that means. Just the fact that he recognizes the greatness of Vinatieri, that goes a long way with me, because he's actually studied the work and done his game.
Yep.
Some other people are like, oh, I don't know, I just go out there and kick it.
Right.
But he studies Adam Vinatieri.
There's a method to his madness.
Yeah, so he's a little bit of a technician in that way. I think he's going to be a pro, and I think he's going to be a solid kicker. I'm giving it a B, because a lot of times you shouldn't be drafting a kicker, but in our particular case, it makes perfect sense. So I would have bumped it down unless it wasn't an actual need for us. So that's where we are with that. So I like the pick.
And this guy's the king of consistency, right? He's 18 and 19 field goals last year, 94.7%. He had a career high of 56-yard field goal against Virginia Tech. Perfect on extra points his whole career, by the way. Oh, no, he missed one, sorry. 62 of 62 last year. Over his career, he was 186 of 187, so 99.5 extra points. Career field goals of 74 of 86, so 86% field goals. In his pro day, he banged a 65-yarder, and that thing had some room left on it. So I'm not worried about his leg as far as his strength goes. Clearly, he's an accurate kicker. And these are the things where, this guy could pan out to be great, or he could be terrible, or there's also the prism of
you never know.
If kicking is so wide.
Especially with kickers, you never know.
Clearly, the evaluators here saw something. He was the top-ranked one, where it's in the 6th round. They traded down, I think, maybe for this pick, too. I'm okay with it.
I'm perfectly fine with it.
B sounds good to me, because it could go either way.
Absolutely. So for the second 7th round pick, pick number 220, they took Marcus Bryant, a tackle out of Missouri. And this guy, he's a developmental tackle, but he's an absolute beast. He's 6'7", 320, has a lot of skills to his game. He worked opposite of Armand Membu in that line. So it begs the question, well, if Membu is so much better than this guy, then why didn't they put him on the left and put this guy on the right?
Right.
So Marcus Bryant, they kept him at left tackle for a reason, because he has a lot of skills. He just needs a lot of refinement. He's, like I said, huge. So he has bendability issues. His anchor is not as low as you'd like it to be. His lateral footwork isn't really there. He's much better as a road grader, run blocker right now at this stage. But they can coach him to pass block. And I know it's a 7th round, but I think he would be a good developmental swing tackle if they can foster that with him. So I'm giving this pick a B. I think it's good value. 7th round, you can't really go wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I think his measurables stand for themselves. For a Raz, I think he was right around a 9, a little under a 9. So, you're talking about elite athleticism for his size, and 6'7", 320, 9 foot 3 inch broad jump, almost 32 inch vertical, almost just under a 5, 497 40.
497 40 for a man that big.
Yeah, it's insane. It's wild.
Gee whiz.
So, like you said, you got some clay that you can mold here. Yeah. And the 7th round, like you said, he's opposite Membu, however you want to say it.
It's a complete flyer.
He's a flyer, but, you need these guys. You need guys that are big-bodied, that you can kind of
We
mold
need
into what you
developmental
need.
players because we don't have any.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, and we can kick the can on guys that are that aren't really showing that they're panning out.
Absolutely.
So this is where I think it's a fine pick. It's a B, and this guy could be on the roster in a year or two, or he could not.
So yeah, for the next pick in the 7th, 251 overall, they went with special teams again, and they're picking long snapper Julian Ashby. Julian Ashby.
Ashby, yeah.
Out of Vanderbilt. And normally we wouldn't have too much to say about long snappers. I know Joe doesn't have a lot.
I don't have a single note on this guy.
He doesn't have a lot to say about it. I actually did do some work on him. Just because I want to know what makes him qualified to take Joe Cardona's job, because Joe Cardona's been here for 10 years, and he is a team captain, and he's 33 years old. That means nothing in a long snapper's life.
Right.
They can play into their 40s. But when I watch this kid's tape, he has a unique ability to get down the field. I was telling Joe earlier that, you have two side gunners, which is obvious, but this guy, when he snaps, which he's very strong and accurate with his snaps, by the way, but when he snaps it, he gets a free release and sprints down the middle of the field. So you basically have three gunners going down the field. So he catches the punt returner at the point of attack. Now, does he make the tackles? No, not too much. I think he only made two tackles last year. But the point is, he gets in the guy's face right away and funnels him around to the gunners.
Gives him that little extra pause, right?
He funnels them around to the gunners to show them what's what. Now, does that game relate to the NFL? I don't know, because not a lot of guys are actually trying to rush from the A gap right over the center on a long snap. But if they see this guy's film, and if he's doing that kind of work in downfield and it's hurting a team, then somebody's going to put a hat on a hat.
Yep.
And it's not going to work out for him anymore. And the other thing is, again, same as a kicker, they didn't feel like getting into a bidding war with the guy because he's the top long snapper. So instead of paying the guy guarantees, they just went ahead and drafted him. So I don't have a problem with the pick. I give it a C because it's a long snapper. And we already have a good long snapper. But I understand the reasoning on why they did it. So that's why I give it. It would have been worse if I didn't understand the reasoning.
And if I didn't know about our UDFAs, I'd probably give it a D, because I think there was a lot of running backs that I really liked at this point, given, I forget, Corey Kiner. There's a bunch of guys on the board that I was just like, man, this guy's good. I think, a compliment, an up-and-comer guy to give us that fourth running back that would really maybe stick.
Well, we're gonna get to that guy when we cover the undrafted
But
guys.
because I know about the UDFAs, I'm going to give it a C as well, because like you said, there must be something special about this guy. Joe Cardona has been a staple for the Patriots for the last 10 years. There's got to be something we're missing here. So in lieu of not knowing what that is, and maybe you just figured it out.
Or unless he's just going for a complete overhaul with the culture change.
Yeah.
Which I don't see how Joe Cardona is bad culture.
Why is he on the chopping block?
So the jury's out on that one. I understand why they did it. Whatever. What do you
So a C. All right.
Exactly. So Mr. Irrelevant. Like the long snapper where I have notes, this guy, I have very minimal things to say about him, but Joe does, so I'm going to let Joe take it away.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing crazy. I think from what I see from this kid, he's a gritty, he's not a Raz guy. He's not going to be like this burner, he doesn't really have a lot of great measurables. He's, 6 foot 190, runs a 4.56. His Raz was like 2.93. It was actually pretty awful. But when I saw his tape, two things jumped out. One of them was a kind of a funny running Madden joke we have for the Patriots. There was a play called Sirwanga Blitz, and Cato Sirwanga, this guy, I don't know what it was, but he was like unstoppable, terrible. I wouldn't say terrible, but not a great player.
He wasn't that good.
But in Madden, it was like an unstoppable play. So we'd run this guy Cato, we called Sirwanga Blitz, and it was like the secret play that beat everybody.
So was that like a nickel blitz or a safety blitz?
It was like a nickel blitz, yeah. He would just come off the nickel and just you'd use or control him and just send him, and it would just be like, how is this guy, like, no one picks him up every time.
Getting right in there.
Yeah, so he had a play, I forget against what team, where he did the same thing, and he had I think it was 5 tackles for a loss and 2 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. I don't think this guy's going to get a lot of run on defense. He'll definitely be a special teams guy if he makes the team. But some gritty snaps that I saw out of him, I'm like, oh, this guy could be,
No, they like
something.
him. They brought him in for a visit. He wasn't even on anybody's draft board, and they brought him in for a visit. So they obviously think he fits what they're trying to do, whatever that might be.
They're good at sometimes picking out these diamonds in the rough, right? So
Well, Craig Woodson, that's my pick for diamond in the rough of this draft. So I'm going to be following it very closely.
Yeah, when I saw that 85 grade on both run stuffing and coverage. I mean, I didn't even realize that was a thing that would qualify you as elite. And there's only 6 people in the past 5 years that have gotten that. So
Yeah. So on average, so my final grade for this draft is an A-. I think they did knock it out of the park. I have to give the minus grade for just a little bit of the reaches where I thought maybe they could have gotten a running back in a later round, but I still think they took the best running back they could have possibly taken. And there's also questions about Will Campbell with his measurements, and I thought they should have been more aggressive about trying to trade down. I know, Joe, you agree with me about that.
I was on board with that too. So I'm going to give it an A. And it's mainly, and this could be my recency bias with the previous drafts that we've had, where I've just been so sick of, having to cope and having to.
We're just happy that a draft makes sense.
Yeah, this is like Stockholm syndrome. It's like you've been beaten by your captor so much. When they look at you and smile, you're like, "Thank you so much."
Exactly.
You feel
Please,
like,
yes. Can I have more of this nonsense?
Yeah. So I don't know. I just that's my grade. I don't think it's going to be much different around the board. A, B plus, A minus. Right. It's a great draft. I mean, I'm reading.
It's such a breath of fresh air.
It
man.
is.
It really. We've been scratching our heads with Belichick drafts for God knows how long, and then last year happened, and that was a debacle. And now we actually have a draft with players from prominent schools, high volume production, elite competition, and all kinds of amazing tape to look at.
Yep.
Known commodities, and not the obscure, FCS Division II, these guys that nobody's ever heard of.
Which we got a few of those great ones coming up.
well, we do, but it's still within the context of the current regime.
Yes.
It's not the last one, because I could never predict what that guy was going to do.
Exactly.
And nobody else would. And trust me, we're going to be doing this every week in between now and the training camp, and we're going to do it every week after that too, but we will be live, and I will be talking about Belichick's draft strategy at one point. We're going to devote a segment to that.
Yes, 100%.
So I can get things off my chest and say how much better what's going on now than it was in the last couple of years under the Belichick regime. So we're going to do all that. But for right now, I think we should move on to the UDFAs, guys.
It's one of my favorite segments at this point, because
I'll let you take it away. Take it away.
I mean, so whenever I was doing a PFF mock draft, I would come up with this guy in the 6th and 7th round, and a lot of the picks that we had, and Efton Chisholm would come up, and I didn't know anything about him, I'll be honest. But I would look up and say, "Who is this guy?" Efton Chisholm the third. I'm a third myself, so that piqued my interest.
Piqued your interest. Yeah. You had the common connection.
Exactly. So it piqued my interest, and I'm like, what? I just went straight to YouTube, and I'm watching this guy's highlights, and I'm like, okay, so that's pretty much Julian Edelman is what I'm watching.
Julian Edelman Light, yeah.
I'm watching Julian Edelman, Cooper Kupp. I'm like, this guy is athletic. He's making, something out of nothing. And, you go back and then you look at his career totals. Over his college career, he recorded 346 receptions for 3,852 yards and 37 touchdowns over his whole career.
Didn't he break like one of Cooper Kupp's?
Exactly. So he surpassed all those benchmarks. He surpassed all of Cooper Kupp's measurements from Eastern Washington. And he also led the FCS with 120 receptions and ranked second with 1,311 yards and scored 13 touchdowns in 2024. So, I mean, this guy's got he's got the production, right? He's got the production, the proven production. Granted, it's not against the top talent, but he accounted for 50.8% of Eastern Washington's total receiving yardage. I mean, this guy was the whole offense. So you just look at this guy, and then he plays special teams too. He amassed 908 yards on kickoff returns, 21 yards on 31 kickoff returns, and was a reliable punt returner as well. So this guy is versatile. He's a slot for sure. He's a little smaller, right? Was he 5'10",
195.
195?
We have debates about that, but I'm going with your assessment on it.
I showed you his arms, man. I can tell you right now, he's definitely a good 195.
Yeah, for sure.
But another tidbit here. So I've been kind of beating the Efton Chisholm drums on X, and Christy Chisholm actually followed us.
His mom,
yeah. So that's another
shout out, Christy.
Yeah, that's another tidbit that I think is pretty cool.
We love your kid. We're gonna talk him up. We hope he makes the roster.
I mean, I'm honestly looking at him and saying, if this guy shows any bit of flash in the pan in these practices, and Jalen Polk or Javon Baker don't steal the show, I don't know, man.
He has as much a chance as any because
Kendrick Bourne, all these guys, like,
you're going to see a lot of shakeup in the wide receiver room, so we'll see how the whole thing pans out.
Yeah, he's not a Raz guy, you know. He's not these measurables don't jump off the pages, but he also didn't go to the combine too, right? So you got all these measurables that happen outside of that in his pro day, and did he do all the tests, right? So I don't put too much stock in that. Small town roots, they call him Easy Efton. I mean, the guy's just he hurdled a guy in one of these games. I'm not sure which game it was, but
ball skills are outstanding.
Yeah. So I don't know, Mike. I'll turn it over to you.
I mean, when he gets the ball in space, he has an uncanny ability to make people miss. And I know this is very recency bias, but his comp to me is Kyle Williams. They have a similar physical makeup. They have a similar skill set. They were used in comparable ways. You know, they both played the X, but they both got lined up all over the offense, and they both got schemed open on touches a bunch of times. And they both have elite elusiveness when it comes to the ball in their hands. If you watch those two guys taking bubble screens, the first guy will never, ever tackle either one of those guys. So I'm pretty high on the guy. We have a lot of slot receivers, and he's going to be a slot receiver. But I'm hoping that, competition cream rises to the top. We were very disappointed in the output of the receivers last year. So hopefully some of these guys, they come in and they take spots over. But, yeah, we're very high on Efton Chisholm. We like him as a player. We'd like to see him on the roster, and at the very least, maybe, on the practice squad. But we like the guy. And then we have, what do we have, one more guy?
One more guy.
One more guy. All right, so we're talking about running back Larson. Lan or Lon. I've heard some people call him Lon, but I'm going to call him Lan. So this guy, well, Joe, I'll let you talk about the numbers, and I'm going to talk about what they give you for a guarantee.
Yeah, so this is where I said, I would have been more upset with the long snapper pick, but then I knew about the UDFAs. Larson is I was really hoping that we got some more depth behind. Obviously, we put a huge draft capital in Travion Henderson. We have Ramondre. We have Antonio Gibson. But who's the other guy after that, right? And for me, without having to spend a pick now, Mike will get into the numbers of what they paid him. But this guy is, I don't know how he fell to us, and I don't think he necessarily fell to us as much as we actually paid for him. But talking about a guy who has almost 1,500 yards rushing, 17 touchdowns with 5.2 yards per carry. This is just his rushing stats. Then you get into his receiving. He's got 62 receptions for 847 yards and 6 touchdowns there.
Ridiculous.
So the guy's got almost 2,400 all-purpose yards.
2,387 all-purpose yards.
23 touchdowns?
Yeah.
I mean, who is this guy? I mean, when you look at his tape, he looks like Christian McCaffrey.
Competition, but the tape still does speak for itself, the way he eludes people and runs people over. And you talked about, his catching ability. There's highlights of him high-pointing it with one-handing
it, yeah.
This guy he's
a highlight reel. He's
absolutely electric with the ball in his hands. They gave him a bunch of money to do it too. He signed for $175,000 guaranteed with the $25,000 signing bonus.
So there was a war. There was a bidding war there.
There was definitely a bidding war there, and they kind of overpaid. You don't usually pay that much for an undrafted free agent, so it tells me a couple different things. That A, yes, there was a bidding war. B, they valued the player. And C, we have a need for the player.
Yeah.
We could actually use the player, like you just said. I would like 4 running backs that could rotate in and out. This kid can do it all, and he's not tiny either. I know he's
5'11", 215.
So he's a stocky kid. He's a cowboy. He's a steer wrangler or whatever it is. So he participates in rodeos. So this guy's a good old boy. He's a dog, And with the ball in his hands, he has incredible contact balance and won't go down. And he bounces off people. He runs over people. He's not just like a finesse guy or anything like that.
How many yards after contact do you think he had? This is an amazing stat, by the way.
I mean, that's impossible to say. I'd say 6.8.
No, sorry. His total yards, not the average. Total yards for the 2024 season. How many yards do you think he had after contact?
1,000.
935.
Holy crap.
935 after contact yards.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
That's insane.
They call him the bulldozer. That's who was actually in the stat, the bulldozer.
So he's a guy that I think would have a very realistic shot at making the roster.
Right.
So I'm very interested to see what happens with that. I mean, we're still shallow at some positions, you know. Quarterback, we only have 2 quarterbacks. We need another quarterback.
We got one UDFA, right?
Yeah, Ben Woolridge out of Louisiana. He'll be a camp arm, so we need him. But we also have, like, those guys that we mentioned, they have legitimate roster aspirations. And then there's a couple of tight ends that I like here that might make the team because we're low on tight end depth. C.J. Dipre out of Alabama, he comes to mind. He was supposed to be drafted. They were projecting him in the 5th or the 6th round, and now he's just sitting there for us. And he's an inline blocking tight end. He's not flashy,
Which we don't have.
but we need that because the other 2 guys, Hooper and Henry, they're more move tight ends, and they're both long in the tooth. They're like 31 years old each. You don't know what Jaheim Bell's going to be doing. You need depth at that position. I think that guy has a legitimate chance at the roster, obviously depending on what goes on in training camp and how competitive he is. But we still have room where we could actually pick up some of these guys and they could make the team. So it's a nice roster that they put together of undrafted free agents.
Yeah, and I think where Larson could fit in, I mean, who knows? Gibson flashed last year. He showed some really good ability in his short body of work. Ramondre, obviously, with the fumbling problems, I mean, either one of those could be looking to be a healthy scratch any week.
You never know.
Depending on what happens, right? I mean, I doubt it. I doubt you'll see Ramondre.
I don't know what Mike's thinking. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's got a plan for everything. So what's his plan for that?
Could you run Antonio Gibson, Lan, and Travion and leave Ramondre out? If he's, let's say, God forbid, in the first week or 2 he's fumbling and they're like, all right, we got to send a message to this kid.
So we'll see. But, yeah, we like to me, those guys are like extra draft picks because they have just as much of a chance of being on the roster as any of the other guys. So we're both very high, A minus.
Yep. I'm going to go with an A.
Solid A for you.
Yeah.
We like it a lot. We're refreshed and replenished that we had a draft that actually made sense and they worked the board to their favor. So now we're just looking toward the future. The mini camps coming up. I mean, the Patriots are in the second phase of OTAs this week. But then we're going to be looking out for rookie mini camps, and we're going to do a deep dive on that based on the reporting. But on a week-to-week basis in the slow season, we're going to report on what we know, and then we're going to pick some topics that we think might be interesting.
Yeah, I think next week we're going to dive into the division. I think looking at their off-season additions, their draft, who did they sign as UDFAs. Right now I think Vegas has us at plus 165 or something to be in the playoffs. So, I mean, how does that happen without, either winning the division or competing for the division, right?
Those are good odds. And, Joe, like you say, Vegas is never wrong.
Vegas is rarely wrong, right? I mean, they're on the cusp of everything. And so they're, if it's 3.5 and, they win by a field goal or they, it's like they're rarely off. So, but anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. This has been a special episode. It's our 3rd episode. I feel like we're getting better. Drop any comments. Let us know how everything's working out, the audio, the video, however you're consuming this. Catch us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, soon to be on YouTube. And thank you for joining in.
And soon to have sponsors, too.
And soon to... we actually do have a sponsor. I almost forgot. Rogue Island. So if you're in Providence, if you're in the arcade...
So what's Rogue Island?
Rogue Island Kitchen and Bar. So... think of it as a local jacked up version of Tavern on the Square. So Tavern on the Square has a lot of good pub food, but this is like next level, like amazing food. Their poutine, their They have these short rib melts. I mean, they have a million beers on draft, and it's mainly local beers in the New England region. So yeah, check it out if you're in the arcade in Providence. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, we're going for lunch there afterwards. So
that's right.
We'll post you our review.
All right, guys.
Thank you so much for listening. Listen next time because it's going to be awesome.
Let's go.
Thanks a lot. LFG Pats.